Hey guys, it's Luke from Uploaded here, and welcome to another review. In this review, I will not just be reviewing one game, but I will be reviewing 6 games. Why am I doing 6 games? Because the kind guys over at Stolen Couch Games able to send me the best of Greenlight Bundle so that I could review it. And I want to just thank Xander for hooking me up with that first of all. But yeah, the best of Greenlight Bundle, it costs $5, which I believe is something like £3.50 or something. The proper UK price will be on the screen, and the price in euros as well, because why not? In any case, this review, it will take a structured approach where I will cover each game very briefly, and I will rate the graphics, audio and gameplay all out of 20 to bring it to a final score out of 60. The 6 games within this bundle are Megabyte Punch, Oniken, Cider Arcade, Bridget, Crunch and Scapegoat. Hope you enjoy the review, and without further ado, let's get straight in and look at Megabyte Punch. Megabyte Punch is a game about robots where you punch each other hard. In fact, they punch each other so hard that they go flying off the screen when you kill them, and explode into loads of tiny little bits, as they're called. In any case, Megabyte Punch has a great graphic style, and it's like a really simple, fresh style that I actually quite like. The audio is actually not that bad, but it can get a little bit repetitive, considering that the audio is actually the same for each stage within the stages. There are a lot of collectibles in this game, which adds a lot to the replayability. You can collect these things called colours, which actually, as you guess, just changes the colour of your character. In any case, the actual gameplay of this game is really fun actually. It's very satisfying to get a kill, because every time you do there's like this noise, and you'll hear it now, but it's like noise, and it's really cool. Because like, feel like you earned the kill. It's not too challenging, but it's still not easy. I'm currently stuck on the final boss, which is a pretty hard final boss, if I do say so myself. There is local multiplayer, which is actually pretty fun. It reminds me a little bit of Smash Bros, which it kind of uses the same mechanics. It's got the percentage system of damage, and then the flying off the screen thing, which is pretty much Smash Bros, but with robots that fight as well. So yeah, you can actually change your parts up by salvaging them off the enemies you've killed, which is pretty cool. You can change different parts, like you can have a drill arm, or you can have like a flying hip thing. Yeah, you can have different stuff. It's really cool. Other than that, there is also a tournament mode if you're feeling like you want to break from the single player or the multiplayer mode, which is where you basically you have 3 lives and you face 8 opponents all in a row, and if you win you get a poop ton of bits and special part as well, which is really cool. Overall, this game is actually not really that bad. I would rate the graphics a 17 out of 20. I'd rate the audio a 14 out of 20. And I'd rate the gameplay itself actually an 18 out of 20, because I did have a lot of fun with this game. And honestly, I would go back and play it again. Overall, 49 out of 60 for Megabyte Punch. Oniken. Haven't played a game like this in a while. Can't be too hard. I mean, back when I was a child, I managed to defeat NES games pretty easily. What could possibly go wrong? Oniken is a devilishly hard NES era throwback game, which pretty much has exactly the same graphics as NES games, except it looks a bit nicer than NES games. The game focuses on a samurai guy who, I don't actually know his name. What is it, Zaku or something? Yeah, Zaku, that's his name. In any case, it focuses on this samurai guy that goes chopping up robots for some reason, with the plot thing at the start of the game, which sort of gives you the plot at the start of the game, and it's a little bit interesting. The soundtrack to this game is actually really catchy and really awesome. It really throws you back to the NES era style of games, and I think that's really cool. This game is actually really awesome. Okay. Maybe this time I'll take it. In the olden times, the only reason NES games used to be hard was because the controls, in my opinion, used to suck. This game doesn't have that same problem. This game actually controls really well. Not gonna lie, this game actually makes me feel like I lost just because I wasn't good enough and not because the controls were utter crap. The replayability isn't the best for this game, however, because once the story mode's complete, I'm pretty sure that's it. And there's no multiplayer, which is sad because I quite like this game and I wish it had more to it. In any case, that single player is going to last you a long time, because when it takes you this long to beat level 2, you know it's going to be a hard game. This is possibly one of the hardest games I have ever played, and I look forward to playing more of this game. I'm going to give the graphics a 15 out of 20 for throwing me back to the NES era, and, you know, it's actually got pretty good graphics. I mean, look at the detail on that monster there. Yeah, great detail on that monster. The audio is going to get a 19 out of 20 because the soundtrack is freaking awesome. Just listen to this. If you don't like that soundtrack, I don't know what is wrong with you. The gameplay is going to get a 15 out of 20. The controls are actually not bad and pretty decent. The gameplay is just super hard, but it's still fun to play because when you actually do end up beating that mission, no other game has a greater sense of success overwhelm your body. Oh. In any case, Oniken gets a 49 out of 60 overall. It should be noted that I actually really like bullet hell games, and that's exactly what Cider Arcade is, which is the next game we'll be looking at. Cider Arcade is a very hard bullet hell game that will have you coming back to try and beat the same mission over and over again. If that wasn't enough to make the replayability even more, they added in a survival mode, which honestly, you know you want to get that high score and beat your friends on this game. The soundtrack is pretty average though. I mean, nothing really truly stands out about the soundtrack for me in this game personally. And honestly, in bullet hell games, soundtrack is hell of a lot of importance. Because to me, nothing is more fun than shooting a load of things, dodging a load of bullets while listening to a really upbeat and awesome soundtrack. Which unfortunately this game doesn't really do for me. What I did seem to like actually was that the different graphics settings were for different consoles. You could actually customize the graphics in this game to sort of throw yourself back to different consoles such as the Amiga, Commodore 64 and the ZX Spectrum, which was actually a really cool idea for the devs to implement there. There are 4 different ships for you to pilot with different abilities, different stats, which, let's be honest, I'm just going to choose the one with the highest speed because that's all that matters in a bullet hell game. Why would you choose the ship with the highest defense? I'm not planning on getting hit in this game, gosh. In any case, there actually isn't any multiplayer in this, which is a shame because I feel like beating up enemy ships with a friend near you would actually be a lot more fun. The gameplay does get pretty monotonous though after long periods of play, which is my one worry with this game. I would go back and play it, but only as a casual game when I'm bored, but still, it's not that bad of a game. Overall, for Cider Arcade, I'd give the graphics a 14 out of 20. Just, it gets extra points because of the customizable graphics for the old consoles. The audio would get only a 12 out of 20 because I just didn't feel like it popped enough, you know? I didn't feel like the audio had that much of an impact on me. Gameplay gets 15 out of 20 because it's decent fun, but it does get boring relatively fast. Overall, Cider Arcade gets a 41 out of 60. Finally, a different score. Now I'm gonna go all out and just say straight away that I am actually not a very big fan of physics games. So, it's going to be pretty hard for me not to show my bias on this game, but I have tried to look at this game as if I was a fan of physics games. Bridget is an interesting game. It's a game where you build bridges. Yeah, didn't see that one coming. I really don't know what you guys expected from this game. I would actually say that in this game the graphics are quite nice. The attention to detail is really good. I mean, look, there's a bird flying by and there's some writing on that sign and there's a wolf over there in the distance. There isn't even a soundtrack in this game and the audio is pretty minimal, but for the kind of game that this is, that's not too bad. I mean, it's supposed to be like a relaxing game and nothing too high tense. So, personally, the lack of a soundtrack doesn't bother me too much, but yeah. It's got a really good physics engine, so for a physics game, I feel that that's pretty important, actually. So yeah, it's a great game for fans of physics simulator games, but people that don't really like these kinds of games might struggle to get into this game, which is, I know personally, that's what I was like. However, for people that don't like physics games, we can make a train fall off a cliff, we can watch bridges blow up, we can watch cars fall to their doom. Oh, and it's got a really cool cinematic mode as well. Point for you. However, the game does get very boring very quickly to me. But it does have a lot of content. It's a level editor, so you can actually play modes that other people have created. So the game takes a while to get boring. There's a lot of things to the game, and there's a lot of levels that you can try out. Each level is actually really hard. I was on level 2 and I could complete it. There's a lot of different tools you can use to make your bridges, such as suspension cables and other stuff, which is, you know, it's interesting because I thought that just holding a bridge up with a load of iron girders would be useful, but apparently not, as this train falls to its demise, unfortunately. Poor guys. I probably just killed about 30 people. Anyway, Bridget. I'm going to give the graphics in this game 15 out of 20. It got bumped up a lot of points just because, honestly, the graphics were pretty realistic and quite nice, and the attention to detail, considering the kind of game this is, it didn't need good graphics in the first place. But the attention to detail with the birds flying overhead and the animals and just pretty much everything it's quite nice. As for the audio, there isn't actually a soundtrack, so I can't really score the audio too high. It's going to get an 8 out of 20. Sound effects aren't too bad, but yeah, there's really not much to do with the audio. Yeah. As for the gameplay, that's going to get a 10 out of 20 from me. Just because I feel like this is a very niche game and not many people would actually like playing with physics games. Obviously I could be wrong and everybody could like them, but for me personally, I found it quite boring. So, you know, I have to sort of get my personal opinion across. Honestly, the personal opinion for me, this would have scored lower, but I had to think about the people that actually enjoy physics games, and I had to not be biased, which is why this gets 10 out of 20 from me. Overall, Bridget gets 33 out of 60, which might not be a great score for it, but trust me, if you're a fan of physics games, you will probably rate this game a lot higher than I did. Next on the list is Crunch. Now, this game, first things first, this menu is god-awful. There's no graphics settings, and the sound settings are hidden away behind the P on your keyboard. What? Why? What? Just the UI design in this game is stupid. Why can't I change the graphics settings? Why do I have to lower and raise the volume by pressing P? What? And then I've got to press the plus and the minus keys on my keyboard? Why? That's just bad. There's also no explanation as to what is going on at all. I apologise if all of it's revealed at the end of the game, but at the start of the game, there's no explanation as to what is exactly the plot of this story. All I can gather is that I'm a ball floating through some sewers. And I don't know what else to say. I'm getting chased by monsters and stuff. I don't know. Why? What's going on? All that aside though, the graphics aren't that bad, and it's actually got its own unique little graphic style. But for long periods of play, honestly, it gets a little bit hard on my eyes. The music isn't bad either, but again, this music does get pretty repetitive at times. The controls were also really hard to get used to, but once you got used to them, it was a lot easier to play the game. I feel like you just had to sort of play the game for a while in order to get into the control scheme and how slidey the character was. It's a really frustrating game. Do not play this when you want to calm down on a Friday night. No, this is a game you play and you rage. But all that being said, it does feel really good when you actually complete the level that you're stuck on. So you've got to hand it to the game for making you feel good. So overall, the graphics for Crunch is a 12 out of 20. Because while it had its own unique style, which I thought was pretty nice, and each level had a sort of different colour scheme, honestly, it does get pretty hard on my eyes at times. The audio, again, the actual soundtrack is not bad, but it does get repetitive, so that's why the audio is 12 out of 20, similar to the graphics. The gameplay gets 14 out of 20, just because the control scheme is quite hard to get used to for new players, but it is quite a fun game. It will make you rage, but when you do finish the level, it's great. In this game, you have to reach the pipe at the end of the level by dodging random things like saws and monsters and other really creepy and scary things that this game has to offer. All the while, your health bar is slowly dying, so you have a limited amount of time to complete each level. On top of that, you can actually speed yourself up by holding the space bar, but doing so makes your health drain a lot faster. And obviously, hitting a monster or a saw will drain a little bit of your health. So this game does have some interesting mechanics behind it, but overall it's just a very speedy platformer, I guess. I guess you could call it a platformer. The final game in this bundle is Scapegoat, which in my opinion was one of the best ones in the bundle alongside Megabyte Punch. Honestly, Scapegoat is actually a really cool game. It takes a very retro art style, but it makes it look really nice and good. Not only that, the music is really catchy and it fits the mood really well. Essentially, in this game, you play a goat that has been imprisoned in a dungeon. You have to work your way out of the dungeon, meanwhile freeing a load of sheep that also got themselves stuck in this dungeon by some master chain person thing. In any case, this game does have quite a lot of unique gameplay mechanics. You can actually get a mouse, which adds a lot of depth to a lot of puzzles. And this mouse makes things a lot trickier than this game starts off as. You can charge and ram into things, and you can jump, of course. This is the obvious things that are in a puzzle platformer game. But this mouse essentially allows you to be in two places at once, which is really interesting. Not only this, after you finish that campaign, there is a load of replayability with the level editor, which allows you to make your own levels, and you can download other people's levels from the Steam Workshop, I believe, in order to play their levels. There is also a second campaign that the developers added in that unlocks after you finish the first campaign. This second campaign is extremely hard, but is really fun, which is really, really cool. Each level has its own theme and its own set of puzzles. For example, all of the puzzles in one of the levels involved electricity and how you had to stop the electricity from flowing in order to get from one place to the other. Other levels involved ice and many other things, which I felt was really awesome. Not only this, to make the game seem less repetitive, there's only 6 parts to a level, and the 6th part is just unlocking the sheep at the end of the level. In my opinion, this really breaks up the game and makes it seem a lot less repetitive. Honestly, it's a pretty short game, but it's really fun, and the replayability factor is huge. I'm going to give the graphics for this game a 16 out of 20 because the retro art style is really nice, and it actually makes the game look really good. I'm going to give the audio a 17 out of 20 because the soundtrack was really nice and wasn't repetitive at all, to be honest myself. I feel like it fit the mood of the game really well. And I mean, okay, just take a listen to the soundtrack of this game. You see, I think that sounds really awesome. Not only that, each level kind of has its own soundtrack, which honestly I feel that that is really awesome. I especially like the sheep theme, which is the theme when you unlock a sheep. I don't know what the true name of that song is called, but I'm going to call it the sheep theme. Moving on to the gameplay, I'm giving this an 18 out of 20, because this game is incredibly fun. Challenging, but not too challenging. Definitely really rewarding. Makes you feel really great when you actually complete a level. And has a ton of replayability, as well as having some unique mechanics. So, the gameplay gets an 18 out of 20 from me. Overall, this game gets a 51 out of 60, which is the highest scoring game on this list. In my opinion, this game is really awesome and definitely one of the better games in this bundle. The other games are really good, such as Oniken and Megabyte Punch, but I feel like this game just has the most replayability, and also I just had the most fun with this game overall. So, the best of Greenlight Bundle. Should you buy this bundle? Well, ultimately it's up to you, but there is some things that I'd like to point out that should help influence your decision whether to buy this bundle. First of all, you get 6 games for just $5, which is about £3.50, something like that. I'll put all the prices in most currencies up on the screen for you. 6 games for that cheap is really awesome. Not only this, I looked at the games on the Steam Marketplace, and it turns out that the cheapest game here is actually a Scapegoat, coming in at £4, which is already more than the bundle. This is ridiculous. This bundle is amazing. Honestly, I can't see one reason why you shouldn't get this bundle. Out of these 6 games, there's bound to be at least one you like. The prices for what the games overall would cost if you bought them all separately are now on screen. You can see that this bundle is definitely the way to go if you plan on playing any of these games. And even if you don't, I would still recommend the bundle. Let's just do a quick rundown of the games we've had in this bundle and what exactly I thought of them. Megabyte Punch is an awesome multiplayer game that, in my opinion, is just really fun and a casual game to play. Oniken is for the hardcore NES players, and this one is going to take you a while to complete, let me tell you that much. Cider Arcade is fun to play now and then. It's a bullet hell game that, in all seriousness, there is no multiplayer, so it doesn't have much replayability, but it is fun to just chill and relax on now and then. Bridget is a game for those more intellectual players who like physics simulator games. Bridget is probably a game that those kind of people would like to play on a Friday night, just chill back and, watch some bridges fall over, watch some trains die. It's a great game. Crunch is the kind of game that you play, it's sort of like, it reminds me of Super Meat Boy, in a way, because it's a really hard platformer, but when you do finish a level, by God, you feel good. And then finally, Scapegoat is just a really nice single-player game with a lot of replayability that you can play when none of your friends are online, and you just want a nice, relaxing game to play, and you feel in a sort of more intellectual mood and not a dumb mood. So you feel like, okay, maybe I can beat this puzzle that I was stuck on. This is when you play a Scapegoat. A Scapegoat, in my opinion, is probably the best game out of the bundle of 6. So ultimately, should you buy the Best of Greenlight Bundle? My verdict is definitely. Not only is it a lot cheaper to get this bundle, you get 6 really decent games, honestly. Honestly, I can see myself playing at least 3 of these games I can see myself playing multiple times over and over and over. My favourite 3 games obviously were Oniken, Megabyte Punch, and Scapegoat. If you want this bundle, you can head over to the link in the description below, and there's also the link on screen right about now. But also, I am sort of trying a new style for these reviews. I didn't want the review to seem as scripted as my Mario Kart review, because for the Mario Kart review, it was just scripted. And I kind of didn't want that for this review. I kind of wanted a more laid-back review style. So I saw what it was like to try out a new review. Once again, I want to thank Xander and Stolen Couch Games for hooking me up with the Best of Greenlight Bundle and allowing me to do this video. Without them, this video would not have been possible. So I definitely want to thank them for this. In any case, I don't know why you're still watching this video when you could be playing 6 awesome games for only $5. So, yeah, what are you doing? Go on, get out of here. Go and buy the Best of Greenlight Bundle. It's $5. Come on, I mean, it's not much, really. I make more than that every week on my paper round. You still here? Really? Okay. Well, I guess thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.